We are continuing in history, chapter 23, about Samuel Adams. You should be on the second light-colored page that's called History 19, page 2. And we're going to continue to write some more things down about this very, very important man in history. Called, what was he called? The father of the American Revolution. He took care of it and raised it up from a baby until it was full grown and became a man. So let's continue reading, starting here on 114. We are free and want no king. When the British learned of the debates and discussions taking place in America, like the correspondence things we wrote down last time, they decided that troops should be sent to America, soldiers. The British thought a show of military strength would cause the colonists to bow to their demands. They thought if they sent over some soldiers, the colonists would all go, "Oh my, British soldiers, oh no, we'll do whatever you say, just don't hurt us." Were the colonists wimps like that? Not most of them. All right, let's continue. The threat of British soldiers in America only made Samuel Adams more convinced that there must be American independence. I think if the British had thought about it for a second, they would have realized. So now they're going to try to control them with military force, as if that's going to make them want to be English citizens. I don't think so. Okay, so right here, make sure you remember when I start talking, put your finger where we were so you can not get lost, and we'll go back to the book. He gave himself to his work as devotedly as though he had in his keeping the liberties of mankind, as if he was responsible for the liberties of the whole world. He was so devoted. To Samuel Adams, Boston represented a hope and example for the world. He believed that the patriots were champions of freedom. Over to the next column. Actually, let's stop for just a second. What's going on? History and influences doesn't just mean his history. It means what's going on at the time he's alive. So, British troops. Sent to America. Now, it wasn't the United States of America nation yet, but to the colonies of America. Let's continue reading. Right here. Samuel Adams reasoned with the people whenever he met them, in the street, at public meetings, at the shipyards, wherever. He would say, "The king has no right to send troops here to invade this country. We will not submit to any tax nor become slaves." He said that it was not a reverence for kings that brought the ancestors of the New Englanders to America. They fled from kings and bishops. In other words, they came here to get away from kings and bishops. And they looked up to the King of Kings, God. We are free, therefore we want no king. That's what he would tell the people when he would meet them. So let's write that. Over under influences, this is what he was doing to influence his country and influence the future of his nation. Reasoned with people wherever he went. Reasoned with people wherever he went. About the issues of independence. Keep writing as I'm writing. Pause the video if you need more time to write. So what did he say to them? He said, "The king has no right to send troops here. We will not submit to any tax nor become slaves." So let's write those down. I'm going to write them so you can write them. So these are the next two things he went about saying to people. The king has no right to send troops, and we will not submit to any tax nor become slaves. Now, they weren't literally slaves where they were owned by someone, but the way the taxing was going, they were almost like slaves of England. They were just sources of money that the king wanted for his own projects. And he saw America doing really well. Business was growing, and he said, aha, money. Let's tax them. They taxed them on sugar, on tea, on glass, on paper, everything that people needed for basic things that they were doing. There was like a stamp, like a rubber stamp, like I put on your papers when it's done, that they had to get on every document every time they sold a piece of land, every time they wrote a contract, and they had to pay every time they got that stamp thing. The stamp thing didn't really say anything, but it was a way for the government to get money off of every single thing they did. They said, we will not submit to any tax, because they hadn't voted on the tax. It was being pushed on them from outside, nor become slaves of England. And then he said a couple more things. So here's the next thing he said. We left England to be free of the control of kings and bishops. Remember, the king and the bishops of the church were telling them how they could worship and what they could do. And for a long time, they couldn't even own a Bible. Finally, they were allowed to own a Bible. But that's why they left originally, back in the 1600s, back with the Pilgrims, was to be free of the control of kings and bishops. And now who do they look up to? The King of Kings, God himself. So write that. We look up to the King of Kings, capitalized, because it's God. We look up to the King of little k kings. And his last point was, we are free, therefore, and want no king. You can copy that. That's the very last thing in the book. I'm sorry, on this page right here. I don't need to write it on the board. We are free, therefore, and want no king. King, listen to us, king. We don't want you anymore. Back off. So that would be your last point under contributions. This is a huge contribution that he made to the colonies to lead them toward thinking of independence, thinking of what a just government should look like. And what the King of England was doing was not a just government. We'll continue this next time. Bye.